Well, I guess it was only a matter of time before I decided to make my first deck profile on the channel, and why not start it out with my favorite archetype and the channel's mascot archetype, Dark World. Now, this version of Dark World is the pure variant. It doesn't run any of the dangers, although I may make another deck profile incorporating the dangers into it at some point in the future. But this is the pure variant, and I made it with the intent to turbo out as many monsters as possible in your first or second turn to be able to go into your links and your rank 8s as quickly as possible to set up negates and to possibly OTK. That is going to be more or less the objective of this deck, is to turbo out as many monsters as possible and to get into your extra deck as quickly as possible. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So the first monster that we are going to be playing is, of course, Grapha, Dragonlord of Dark World. I'm sure you're familiar with Grapha by now, but if you are not, if he is discarded by card effect, you can pop a card on your opponent's side of the field, and if he is discarded by an opponent's card effect, you can grab one random card from your opponent's hand, and if it is a monster, you can special summon it to your side of the field. The main reason we play Grapha, though, is for the recursion, and if he is in the graveyard and you have a Dark World monster on your side of the field, you can return that face-up Dark World monster on your side of the field to your hand and then special summon Grapha from your graveyard. And that's not a once per turn, and because of that, of course, we are playing 3 copies of Grapha, Dragonlord of Dark World. So next up we have Lucent Netherlord of Dark World. If he's discarded, you can special summon him from the graveyard, and if he's discarded from your hand by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon him as well as special summon one Fiend-type monster from your deck to either side of the field, and that will most of the time be Grapha if you are able to discard it that way. And we are running 2 copies of Lucent Netherlord of Dark World. I do like, and we are running 2 because of his effect that if he's discarded, you can special summon him from the graveyard. I do like those effects from Dark World monsters, and because this variant of the deck that I'm running is trying to swarm the field with as many monsters as possible, that's why I run 2. Alright, so next we do have the main searcher of the deck, Snow Unlight of Dark World. If she's discarded from your hand by a card effect, you can search one Dark World card from your deck and add it to your hand. That can be your field spell, it can be any spells with any Dark World spells, any monsters, or another copy of herself. And then if she's discarded from your hand by an opponent's card effect, you can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it in defense position. And we are running 3 copies of Snow because she is the main searcher of the deck, and we want to see her as much as possible to search out our main extender cards and, of course, the field spell if we don't see it in our opening hand. Next, we are running Beige, Vanguard of Dark World. It is a pretty simple effect. If it's discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, special summon it from the graveyard. And we are running 3 copies of Beige. And reason for that, I know that a lot of people these days are not running 3 copies of Beige, especially in the Danger variant, but for this version of the deck that I'm running, we do just want to spam out as many monsters as possible to go into the extra deck and link plays and stuff like that. So, seeing as the main mechanic of the deck is discarding, it's basically just a free special summon as long as we can get it into the graveyard by discard effect. Next up, we have Brow, Huntsman of Dark World. If this card is discarded by your card effect, then you draw a card, and if it's discarded by an opponent's card effect, you draw 2 cards. Pretty self-explanatory. Run 3 at all times. And to round off the Dark World monsters, we play 1 Ceruli, Guru of Dark World. This is going to be the main way that we activate the secondary effects of most of our Dark World monsters. If Ceruli is discarded, you can special summon this card to your opponent's side of the field, and then its effect becomes your opponent, you, discards a card from the hand. So then you can discard your Brow to discard 2. You can discard Grapha to search your opponent's hand for 1 random card and special summon it. And then Lucent's Effect to special summon a Fiend from the graveyard. So that's going to round out the Dark World monsters. To round out the rest of the monsters that we play in the deck, of course, we are running Tour Guide from the Underworld. It is a great way to go into a rank 3. When it's normal summon, special summon a level 3 Fiend from your hand or deck. Its effects are negated, and it cannot be used as synchro material, but that's okay because we don't run any synchros in this deck, and we are just going into rank 3 with Levianeer to bring back the banished monsters, and we do run 2. I know that she just came off of the list to be unlimited, and we can run it at 3, but in playtesting with this deck, it is more so, you don't want to see it too often. You just want to see it maybe once in your opening hand, and even if you don't see it in your opening hand, you go through this deck so quickly that you are going to be seeing it more often than not. So I wouldn't worry about just getting it in your opening hand. So running at 2 is completely fine. And then the last monster that we run is Fiendish Rhino Warrior. This is going to be the target for Tour Guide of the Underworld. It is a level 3 Fiend, and when it is sent to the graveyard, it basically just acts as a Foolish Burial for your Grapha, and you do want the Grapha in the graveyard as soon as possible so you can start the recursion by bouncing back Dark World monsters from your field to bring out Grapha, then going into your rank 8 plays. So going straight into the spells, we are running 3 copies of Gates of the Underworld. It is your field spell for the deck, and what it lets you do, all Fiend type monsters gain 300 attack and defense, and then once per turn you can banish a Fiend monster from your graveyard, discard a Fiend monster, and then draw a card. And then, of course, the cool thing about this card is that it is a soft once per turn, so if you are able to get multiple in your hand, then you can activate it as many times as you have copies of it. Next, we do have the brand new Fiend support that just got released in Phantom Rage, Charge into a Dark World. Target 1 level 4 or lower Fiend monster in your graveyard, special summon it, then discard a Fiend monster, and this is a hard once per turn, so you can only activate 1 per turn, but we are running 3 copies of it. It is a really good extender. I wasn't too sure how good it would be with the hard once per turn on it, but in playtesting, it has worked out very, very well. I'm really happy with how it's done, so we will run it at 3. Next up, we have Dark World Dealings. Each player draws 1 card and then discards 1 card. This is a great way to get your Fiends into the graveyard to activate their graveyard effects, and of course, we do run 3 of this card. Next up, we are running 3 copies of Drag Down into the Grave. Both players reveal their entire hands and discard 1 from their opponent's hands to the graveyard, and then draw 1 card. We are running 3 copies of that. This card is a really good extender. Well, maybe not extender, but it is really good to know what your opponent has in their hands, and it is really easy to manipulate your hand in preparation for activating it. So if you only have 1 card left in your hand, then you can set it up for exactly what your opponent will discard and get the effect that you want to activate right out the gate. And then the last 3 of that we play in the deck is, of course, Allure of Darkness. Just more draw power, more ways to go into the cards that you want to, and because we do run only one monster in the deck is not a dark monster, you will more than likely always have a target for Allure of Darkness. Draw 2 cards and then banish a dark monster. Then for the 1-ofs, we do have 1 card destruction. Each player discards their entire hand, then draws the same number of cards they discarded. If you have a hand full of Dark Worlds, all of their discard effects will activate, and it is perfect for a Dark World deck. So always run one of these, no matter what variant you're playing. Next one of is Foolish Burial. This is to get Grapha into the graveyard. This is the perfect way to set up your graveyard with Grapha. You want to get Grapha into the graveyard as soon as possible, because the main way and the only way basically that you're going to be summoning Grapha is to target that Dark World monster on the field, bounce it back to your hand, and then special summon Grapha from the graveyard. The next one of that we play is Monster Reborn. It is the perfect way to regain 2 resources. If you have a Dark World monster and Grapha in your graveyard, you can Monster Reborn the other Dark World monster and then activate Grapha's effect to bounce that Dark World monster from the field to your hand and then special summon Grapha. So it is a perfect way in this deck to get back your resources. And then the last one-off spell that we run in the deck is, of course, Terraforming, because we do want to see gates of the Dark World as quickly as possible to keep discarding and keep drawing our cards as quickly as possible. And that is it for the spells that we run in the deck. The last 3 cards that we run in the deck is 3 copies of Eradicator Epidemic Virus. This card is so good in this deck, and it's so easy to get out Grapha. Basically, if you don't know what this card does, you tribute one dark monster that you control with 2,500 or more attack, and then call traps or spells 90% of the time, and then you get to see what's in your opponent's hand, and all spells either in their hand or that they have set and that they draw for the next 3 turns are all sent to the graveyard. And because spells in Yu-Gi-Oh are so powerful right now, it's the main way of, getting out or turboing into, more monsters and getting your draw power and stuff like that. This card is perfect to get rid of the spells that your opponent would use to go into their plays. So that's going to be it for the main deck. We'll go right into the extra deck, starting off with the links that we play. We play 1 Wee Witch's Apprentice. It takes 2 dark monsters. All dark monsters on the field gain 500 attack and defense, and then all light monsters on the field lose 400 attack and defense. And then if Wee Witch is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target a dark monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. And you also can target Wee Witch yourself and then send it back. And then we play the basic Nightmare package. We play the 1 Nightmare Cerberus for special summoned monster removal. If he's link summoned, you can discard a card and then target a special summon monster your opponent controls in the main monster zone and destroy it. We play 1 Nightmare Phoenix. Same thing. When it's link summoned, you can discard a card and then target a back row. It's perfect for back row removal. And then we play 1 Nightmare Unicorn for spinning cards back into the deck. Discard a card, target a card on your opponent's side of the field, and spin it back into the deck, and then they shuffle their deck. I do want to note, though, while the Nightmare package and the Nightmare monsters do say discard, it is technically for cost, so you won't be able to get the effect of the Dark World monsters discard effects if you pitch them off of the Nightmare monsters. We have Borrelsword Dragon. You can switch this out for Access Code Talker. Borrelsword is just really good for FTKs and things like that, so I prefer to run Borrelsword in this deck because we do get out so many monsters and we can use the Borrelsword's effect to attack twice and then siphon off the attack. It's really good for FTKs. And then the last link monster that we play in the deck is Saryuya Skuldread. This card is perfect for the deck. It's depending on how many link materials were used for it. The main one is going to be for the extender for 4. It's when the card is link summoned, you can draw 4 cards, then place 3 from your hand to the bottom of your deck in any order, so you can manipulate your hand if you need a specific card to go into more plays, more discard effects, more draw power, stuff like that. Saryuya is perfect for that. And then if a monster is special summoned to any zone that this points to, it gains 300 attack and defense. And then another extender option, once per turn, you can special summon a monster from your hand, which is perfect. And then that is going to be all of the Link monsters that we play in the deck. Let's move on to the Exceed monsters. First one we play is going to be Leviair, the Sea Dragon. We do have a number of ways that we banish monsters, whether that be from gates or from Allure of Darkness. We do discard a lot in this deck, so running a Leviair for recursion from the banished zone is a really good way to get more extension from your monsters, so that is a good way to get that going. Next up, we run number 60, Dagaris the Timeless. It is a generic rank 4. It is a fiend, so it works really well with the Dark World archetype, seeing as how everyone is fiends. It has a number of different effects that you can activate, but the main one that you're going to be activating is you can detach 2 materials from this card and then activate one of the following effects. The main one that we're going to be using is skip your next draw phase, also draw 2 cards, then discard 1. It's basically just a mini Graceful Charity on legs, which is really cool. And if you know that you're going to be able to set up for some negates or for an FTK, that is really good. So you won't have to worry about the not being able to draw during the next draw phase, because you can just end the game right there or go into negates, so you won't have to worry about anything like that. Next, we have 1 Abyss Dweller to cut off graveyard effects from your opponent. This is really good for seeing how, as the game right now, the graveyard acts as a secondary hand for most decks, because there are a lot of decks, Dark World included, that activate for monsters effects that activate in the graveyard. So Abyss Dweller is perfect for cutting off graveyard access. Just detach a material at the start of your opponent's turn, and they won't be able to activate any monster effects from the graveyard for the rest of the turn. Next up, we have another generic rank 4, number 101, Silent Honor Arc. You can detach 2 materials from this card, then target 1 special summon monster your opponent controls in face-up attack position, attach it to this card as material, and then if this card would be destroyed, you can detach a card from it instead. So pretty good for stealing your opponent's monsters, so they wouldn't be destroyed, so they won't get graveyard effects if they have a destroyed and sent to the graveyard effect, and just steals your opponent's cards, so they won't be able to use them. Next, and the last of the rank 4s, we have Castel, the Sky Blaster Musketeer, another generic rank 4. You can detach 1 material from the card and target a face-up monster on the field and change it to face-down defense position. Good way to avoid any... If you were having a difficult time dealing with a specific monster's effect, you can change it to face-down defense position and basically just bypass that. And then if you need to get rid of something specific and can't hit over it, then you can detach 2 and then shuffle it back into the deck. So that is going to be really good if you need to get rid of specific cards that your opponent has that are causing you a bit of trouble. Alright, so going into the bread and butter is the rank 8s of the deck, starting off with number 38, Hope Harbinger Dragon, Titanic Galaxy. During either player's turn, once per turn, when a spell or effect is activated on the field, you can negate the effect and then attach that spell card to this card as material. And then the other effect, if your opponent's monster declares an attack on another monster you control, you can switch the target to this card instead, which they probably won't play into that most of the time, but it'll just be a deterrent for that. Next rank 8 we are playing is Heretic Sun Dragon, Overlord of Heliopolis. Use this for non-targeting destruction. Once per turn, you can detach 1 XYZ material from this card, tribute any number of monsters from your hand and or your side of the field with a minimum of 1, and destroy an equal number of cards on the field. So non-targeting destruction is always good, especially nowadays with so many cards having the ability to not be targeted by card effects. So running a Overlord of Heliopolis for non-targeting destruction is perfect. Second to last rank 8 we are playing is number 23, Lancelot, Dark Knight of the Underworld. This card can attack your opponent directly while it has XYZ materials, and then if it inflicts battle damage, you can target a face-up monster on your opponent that your opponent controls and destroy it. And then the other effect is that once per turn during either player's turn, when a spell or trap card or monster effect is activated, you can detach a material and negate the activation. So not only is this a rank 8 that can attack attack directly and destroy a face-up monster on your opponent's side of the field. It is also basically more or less just an Omni negate for whatever your opponent is trying to do. And then the last rank 8 and the last card in the extra deck is going to be number 22, Zombiestein. It's just a big fuck off 4,500 attack beat stick to get over your opponent's big monsters that you wouldn't be able to normally. And then the effect is that it can only be XYZ summoned by 2 level 8 dark monsters. And then once per turn, you can detach a material and send a card from your hand to the graveyard, turn this card to defense position, and negate the effect of a face-up card effect until the end of the turn. That is going to be all of the extra deck monsters and the main deck as well. Alright, so there you go. There is my pure Dark World deck profile. I hope you have enjoyed this version. Again, like I was saying, it's the main goal of the deck is to just spam the board with as many monsters as possible to go into your rank 8s and your link monsters to keep extending, to get out negates, and to hopefully OTK if you're going second. Now, this version that I compiled doesn't run any hand traps. If you wanted to run hand traps, you definitely could. You could just side out the Eradicator Epidemic Virus, or side out the Ceruli and a copy of Lucent. You could put in Ash Blossom, you could put in Infinite Impermanence, you could do whatever you wanted hand trap wise, but this version, it's not, it's Dark World, it's not super competitive. I mostly just play it for fun with my buddies and stuff like that. So it's not meant to be the most competitive deck ever made or anything like that. Just made for fun, just made to have a good time. But that is going to do it for today's deck profile and today's video. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Please do like, comment, subscribe. I am still going to be uploading every 3 days, openings, more deck profiles coming soon, whatever it may be. Please let me know what you think of this version of Dark World that I have made, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.